Do you ever feel like you were born at the wrong time? You ever wish you were born in a different decade or a different century? Yeah? Do you ever feel like you would have been better in a previous era, or that maybe you're a prophet from the future? Do you ever think about what would have happened if you were born in some other place on this planet and how your life would look different? I think about that stuff a lot. I was born in the 70s, the early 70s, but I sort of wish that I was a teenager or an early 20-something in the 70s. They sound like a lot of fun. They really do. One of my favorite stories that comes from that era is around 1976. There was a museum, an art museum in London that was building a new addition, and it included a new entryway. And one artist decided to put an art installation, in the lobby of this new wing of the art museum by taking some of the bricks that were used in the construction of the new addition and piling them in the entryway and calling it art. Just a pile of bricks, and I'll give you 3 guesses as to what the piece was called. Bricks. That's what it's called. I wish I had been there. It caused an outrage. It was such a stir and had caused so much controversy that the BBC actually did a story on it this past year about how big of a controversy it was. People hated it because it didn't really qualify as art. It wasn't a sculpture or a statue or a painting or anything they sort of recognized. And it's one of the things that intrigues me about art, and specifically modern art, is that the purpose in sort of this post-modern awareness is that the purpose of the piece of art might be nothing more than to evoke something in you. The piece may not be about something, it's about what it does to you, in you. It's evocative, is how the artist community talks about it. And this is why a lot of people hate modern art. And they really hate when taxpayer dollars go to modern art, and they think, we paid for this, it looks like a piece of junk. I mean, that's just rubble. That shouldn't even count as art. It's just a pile of bricks left over from the construction. How could that be art? And that's the right question. How could that be art? Is the evocative question. It's the whole point of the installation. Because it turns out that anything that's in a museum and has a little plaque beside it automatically, by default, is art. Now, this drives people nuts, but it got me thinking, ever since I heard the story for the first time, that the power sometimes in institutions or formulations, occasions, if you want to call them that, is that the form, a museum, gives rise to the expression. I'm going to say it again. The form gives rise to the expression. Now, I'm not one of those preachers who's going to ask you to turn to your neighbor and say this to them, but I am going to invite you to say it quietly under your breath. Try it and see. I just want you to hear what it sounds like. The form gives rise to expression. I think there's a power in adopting this approach in several areas of our life. I'll give you for instance. I used to be a professor, and one of the classes that I got to preach was on, or to teach was on preaching. I actually taught the class with my father for 6 semesters over a 6-year period, and I loved the class. It was called Advanced Communication, and we had so much fun talking about how sometimes the medium is the message and how form gives rise to expression. And so I don't know if you've ever visited a church for the first time. It's a tough thing to do. Anytime you're like church shopping or looking for a new place to connect, it can be tough because especially if you're only going to one church per Sunday, if you go to one and it's sort of a sleeper or a stinker, you think, well, I wasted that Sunday morning, right? And now I got to wait. This is just me, okay? You got to wait 7 days, right, to try it again, and you think, I wonder how many weeks it'll take to find a place that I connect with, right? But have you ever gone home from a sermon? And usually it's not like the senior pastor. It's like a week that the senior pastor's gone and the assistant or the youth pastor gets to talk. And you're on your way home and you think, that wasn't a sermon. Have you ever had that thought or ever heard a presentation and thought, I don't even know how that qualified as a sermon? It was more like a MSNBC talking points, or it was more like a book review, or right, whatever it was, but it wasn't a sermon. And I want to say, au contraire, mon frère. No. That was the sermon. Now, you may not have liked it. It may not have connected with you. You may have thought it doesn't have any of the things I recognize or appreciate. But here's the thing. If it was said during a worship service on a Sunday morning behind a pulpit, that's a sermon. Now, it might have been really bad, but that was the sermon. And what I would talk about with the students, seminary students, is if the form gives rise to the expression, we have to take very seriously the expression. If what you say when you're in the pulpit counts as the sermon, then you owe it to everyone to take seriously what you say when you're in the pulpit, because that's the sermon. Like if you got a shot to put a piece of art in a museum, it's important that you feel the weight of that opportunity and privilege and put something on display that is worth paying and going to. If the form gives rise to expression, then we have to start taking the forms more seriously. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about this ahead of Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a posture. It is a heart attitude. It is an opportunity. And the form gives rise to the expression. So I beseech you, brothers and sisters, as an exhortation, cultivate a heart of thanksgiving. Now listen, I know that times are tough and that life can throw you curveballs and that it can be rough coming into the holiday season, and you think, I don't know if I have it this year. I don't know if I can rally. I don't even know if I want to celebrate Thanksgiving. I'm not feeling that thankful. I want to present to you that the opportunity, the form of Thanksgiving gives rise to the expression and not the reverse. We don't have Thanksgiving when we're feeling grateful. It is the form that gives rise to the expression. That's what I want you to consider today. And I don't want you to think that I'm saying this as some sort of abstract concept or some theory that I haven't walked out in practice. I'm just going to give you a couple of examples of things that I have been working on in the last couple of years as I have tried to embody in my carne asada, in my carnitas, I've tried to embody a heart, a posture of thanksgiving. I'm not enjoying being in my 50s very much. My 30s and 40s, pretty awesome. Things are starting to fall apart. Yeah, I know what you're right. I know. So listen, I joined a group called From Aging to Saging. We read through this book, and we met, and about half the people in the group were younger than me, and half the people were older than me. And it helped me so much to be a part of a multi-generational conversation like this. That's one of the reasons I love church, is that it's multi-generational. And I listened to those older than me and realized, if you think it's bad now, there's no guarantee it doesn't get worse. So if ever you're going to cultivate a heart of gratitude and an attitude of thanksgiving, you should probably start now, when you still have this many things to be grateful for. So it's one of the projects that I've taken on, one of the assignments sort of that I've given myself. And here's what I've come up with so far. So, my mom died at 62. My dad was 69. His dad, my grandpa Norm, died when Norm was 51. I'm 52. So I have begun saying, man, am I grateful to be in my 50s. You know, not everybody gets that opportunity. I wonder what my grandpa Norm would have been like. I wonder what he would have become, right? A man of wisdom, or a character, a jokester. Like, I don't know. I never got to meet him. But I wonder what he would have been like in his 60s. And what that has done in me is it started being like a little call and response for me to say, what am I going to be like in my 60s? What do I want to be like in my 60s? Because whatever that trajectory is, I can start leaning that way now, right? There's no magical number that appears on your birthday cake and all of a sudden you're the person you wanted to be, right? Like, hey, turns out I'm me now. No, it's the little decisions we make that make us into who we become. So I've started trying to be grateful that I made it this far, and let it be a call to me to see who I might be in the next decade of my life. This second one, the second confession, may not surprise you. I tend to attract people in my life who aren't the most balanced. I don't know what it is about me, but I don't tend to attract moderate people. Like people who sort of toe the line. I tend to be a safe harbor for people who take things too far and go overboard. I'm what you call a maximalist when it comes to this thing. Some of these people in my life can be quite annoying. Sometimes they get stuck in one gear and they can't seem to get back out of it. They're like in a rut. And they feel, sometimes talking with them feels like listening to a rat chew on its own foot when it's stuck in a cage or something, right? They're sort of miserable even being themselves, but they can't do anything else. And in my experiment, I've tried to become grateful for them. So this is my second confession. I'm grateful for people who take things too far and go overboard. And by doing so, help me realize what I couldn't have realized if they were more moderate. That's something I'm trying to cultivate in myself. For instance, I have a friend who is converted to Calvinism, like a really conservative Reformed theology. He corrected me one time because I told, in a sermon, I said that God loves everyone, and he said, you got to stop saying that. We don't know who God loves, right? God has chosen the elect. And so you can't just be telling everybody that God loves them and that they live in a new relationship with God, that they'll be saved. You can't do that. So he was anti-evangelism and said that God, because saving is God's work, doesn't need us. And so he thought we should not share the good news with anybody because we couldn't ultimately know if they were elect, chosen by God. It's annoying. It's really hurtful theology. And I'm grateful for that young man taking that idea too far to expose to me how wretched of a theology that is. And that sovereignty taken to its extreme is a very hurtful and hateful brand of Christianity. Okay, see? This is the heart of Thanksgiving. You can take things that aren't on their surface good, and by cultivating a posture of gratefulness, you can say, you know what? I'm even grateful for that thing. That on the surface may look bad, but, So it's an experiment that I've been doing, and I just wanted to put it in front of you for your consideration. These two scriptures that Helen read for us, they tell us, be grateful in all circumstances. And God will take care of you. God will watch over your heart. And so, as tough as life can be, and as weird as the twists and turns, and as unexpected as the curveballs and the pitfalls can be, Thanksgiving is a form that, taken seriously, can give rise to an expression. So whether you feel thankful today, whether you feel like Thanksgiving this year, I want to encourage you. It's an opportunity that the form can give rise to the expression. Take it seriously as an opportunity to cultivate a posture and a heart attitude of gratefulness. You might be surprised with what you come up with.